Right now, like if you just walk down the street, 2 out of every 3 adults you pass are basically faking it.
Yeah, they totally are.
They are navigating their entire day from this baseline of, profound self-doubt.
Right, absolutely.
And it's wild because you walk into a room and you just assume everyone else has it completely figured out.
Oh, for sure. You think they were just like born with this magical aura of self-assurance.
Yeah. Well, you're just sitting there hoping to blend into the wallpaper. But the data we have today tells a completely different story.
It really does, because we assume confidence is this genetic lottery, right? But when you actually look at the mechanics of the human brain, that whole born with it idea just completely falls apart.
So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are looking into the true nature of self-confidence. And I have to say, the stack of sources we have for this one is just incredible.
That's massive.
Yeah, we're pulling from this super comprehensive document that compiles cutting-edge neuroscience, behavioral psychology, and real-world case studies, basically to show how confidence actually works under the hood.
And our mission today is really to decode why so many incredibly capable people feel like imposters.
Right.
We want to debunk these pervasive myths around self-assurance and, most importantly, give you an actionable, science-backed toolkit to literally rewire your brain for courage.
Exactly. But I think we need to establish the core premise right away.
We do, because it fundamentally changes how you view yourself. Listen to this. Confidence is not a feeling you wait for.
Say that again, because that's huge.
It is not a feeling you wait for. It is a trainable skill.
Right.
It's a biological and psychological system with, knowable inputs. It's not just a mood that magically strikes you when the stars align.
So I want you to think about something right now as you're listening. Think of a specific thing you've been putting off.
Yeah, everyone has something.
Maybe it's pitching an idea to your boss, or starting a new project, or even just having a difficult conversation with a friend.
And you are putting it off because you don't feel ready yet.
Exactly. You're waiting to feel ready.
Yeah.
But by the end of this deep dive, you're going to look at that exact hesitation in a completely new light.
Because that hesitation, that feeling of needing to wait until you feel ready, is basically the ultimate behavioral trap.
It really is.
If we want to understand how to build lasting confidence, we first have to understand why we feel so paralyzed in the first place.
And the research in our sources points to this concept called the confidence action loop, right?
Yes. And most of us have the sequence of this loop completely backward.
Oh, totally. I mean, we genuinely believe the order of operations is feel confident first, and then take the action.
Right, but the data proves that action must come first. You take the action, and the confidence arrives on the other side of doing it.
Wait, so you literally cannot feel confident about something you haven't done yet?
Exactly, you can't. But the human brain is actually wired to wait, and we have to look at the neuroscience to understand why.
Okay, let's get into the brain stuff.
So we all know about the amygdala, right?
The ancient threat detection center deep in the brain.
Yep. The problem isn't that the amygdala is broken. The problem is that its software hasn't been updated for the modern workplace.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
It cannot distinguish between a physical survival threat, like, say, a predator in the brush, and a social risk.
Like raising your hand in a crowded meeting.
Exactly.
So when my heart is pounding before a presentation and my throat gets all tight, my body literally thinks I am fighting for my physical survival.
Yes. Your nervous system is dumping adrenaline into your bloodstream. It's pulling blood away from your digestive tract and pushing it to your limbs so you can run.
Oh, wow.
It forces your posture to collapse to protect your vital organs. It makes your voice quiet so you don't attract predators.
That is so crazy.
It's an outdated job description for a modern world. It's not like a lack of character on your part.
It's just biology. The amygdala is basically like an overprotective bodyguard who tackles you into a potted plant just because a coworker asked for your opinion on a spreadsheet.
That paints the picture perfectly.
Yeah.
Yes. And the only way to call off that bodyguard is to prove that the threat isn't real.
You can't just logic your way out of it, can you?
No, you have to provide experiential evidence. There's a fantastic case study in our sources about this project manager named Sarah.
Oh, yeah, Sarah. She was 31 years old, a brilliant manager, completely respected by her direct reports.
But whenever she had to pitch an idea to senior leadership, she completely froze.
Right. Her throat would close up. She would obsessively rehearse her words, but then ultimately just stay quiet.
And then she'd feel this massive rush of relief when a colleague made the exact point she was going to make.
Which is so frustrating. She would convince herself she just didn't have the confidence gene.
Right. But then she had this major software integration pitch coming up with the C-suite.
The big leagues.
Yeah. She prepared relentlessly, walked into the boardroom, literally physically shaking, but she forced herself to deliver the presentation anyway.
And it went well. Right?
It was a total success. The room was engaged. They loved the plan. But the real breakthrough wasn't the applause at the end.
No, the breakthrough was when she was sitting in her car afterward. She realized that the intense fear never went away before she walked into the room.
Exactly. It only dissipated because she walked in and did it anyway.
She had to act in spite of the excruciating discomfort to give her nervous system new data. She proved to her own brain that she could survive the C-suite.
Action updates the software.
Okay, but I have to push back here for a second, though.
Go for it.
Isn't it dangerous to just preach, take action if you genuinely are prepared? Like, where is the line between taking action to build confidence and just being reckless and setting yourself up for a very real failure?
That is a really crucial distinction. We aren't talking about blindly jumping out of an airplane without checking your parachute to see if you survive.
Right. That would be terrible advice.
We are talking about situations where you are demonstrably capable, where you have done the work and have the skills like Sarah did, but your nervous system is just running a false alarm.
Got it. So in those specific moments of false panic, action is the only mechanism that updates the threat detection system.
Spot on.
But, okay, if the nervous system is running this intense physical response based on outdated software, what determines how sensitive that alarm system is on any given day?
That is a great question.
Because, why are some days super manageable, while other days a single email just sends us into a total spiral?
That really comes down to the biology of belief. The rational part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, is the only region capable of overriding the amygdala's panic signals.
It's the executive that tells the overprotective bodyguard to stand down.
Exactly. But that prefrontal cortex is incredibly sensitive to your physical lifestyle.
And sleep deprivation is a massive factor here, according to the sources.
Oh, huge. When you are sleep deprived, the prefrontal cortex essentially loses its executive function. It just cannot regulate the emotional centers of the brain.
So you become highly threat sensitive.
Yes. A totally normal, neutral email reads like a passive-aggressive attack because your logic center is offline and your amygdala is just running the show.
And diet plays into this physiological panic, too. The research mentions refined sugar causing cortisol spikes.
It does?
Which is wild to me. I always thought sugar just made you crash, but how does that actually mimic anxiety?
Well, when you consume a high amount of refined sugar, your blood glucose spikes, right, and then it rapidly plummets.
Okay.
Your brain relies heavily on glucose to function, so when it senses that sudden drop, it panics.
Oh, I see.
To quickly release stored energy into your system, your body triggers a massive dump of adrenaline and cortisol.
Which are the exact same stress hormones released during a panic attack.
Exactly. Your physical heart starts racing, your hands might get jittery, and your conscious brain looks around, feels those physical symptoms, and assumes you must be socially anxious.
So your brain feels the adrenaline and retroactively creates a reason to be afraid.
Yes. It's wild. Conversely, things like omega-3 fatty acids actively reduce brain inflammation, which stabilizes mood.
Right, and physical movement, even just like 30 minutes of walking, boosts dopamine, which gives you a sense of agency.
And serotonin, which provides a sense of calm and social status.
Our sources also highlight that famous Harvard Business School research by social psychologist Amy Cuddy, the one about posture.
Yes, the power poses. Holding an expansive, open body posture for just 2 minutes measurably alters your blood chemistry.
Just 2 minutes?
Just 2 minutes. It increases testosterone, which is the hormone linked to risk-taking and dominance, and decreases cortisol, the stress hormone.
So it's not just about, like, faking it till you make it as some superficial psychological trick.
No, not at all.
Taking up space literally changes your biological chemistry to prepare you for action.
It does.
But wait. If biology plays such a massive foundational role, does that mean our modern lifestyle, staring hunched over our phones, eating sugary processed snacks, and chronically undersleeping is secretly engineering a global epidemic of social anxiety?
The data strongly suggests exactly that.
Wow.
If you are chronically sleep-deprived, sedentary, and fueled by sugar crashes, Your nervous system is basically locked in a constant state of low-level survival mode.
It interprets almost any minor social friction as a massive life-threatening event.
Exactly. You aren't losing your mind. You are just operating your brain on biological hard mode.
But biology only sets the baseline, right? I mean, you can eat all the salmon and do all the superhero poses you want, but if you don't fundamentally trust yourself, you're still going to crumble under pressure.
That's true. We have to look at how we construct our internal identity over time.
Our sources actually break this down into 3 distinct layers of confidence.
Right, let's go through them. The surface layer is performance confidence.
This is looking the
Yeah, standing tall, speaking clearly, wearing the right clothes. It matters, but it is superficial.
The next layer down is situational confidence. This is feeling capable in specific, isolated contexts.
Let's use a job interview as an analogy here. Performance confidence is wearing the sharply tailored suit.
Okay.
Situational confidence is knowing you have the exact technical skills to pass the coding test they are going to give you.
Right. But you might have both of those and still feel terrified of the overall outcome.
Exactly. Which brings us to the bedrock layer, identity-level confidence.
And this is the core, unshakable belief that no matter what happens, you can figure things out.
Right. In that interview scenario, it's knowing that even if you completely bomb the coding test and don't get the job, your career isn't over.
Your worth isn't destroyed. You will recover.
Yes. The most important question, though, is how we actually build that deepest layer.
Well, I was looking through the notes on behavioral psychology in our source stack, and there's a phrase that really stuck out to me. The commitment consistency principle.
Yes.
How does that framework actually build identity-level confidence?
Okay, so identity-level confidence isn't built by standing in front of a mirror and yelling positive affirmations at yourself.
Because your brain is too smart to believe words without proof, right?
Exactly. It is built through the accumulation of small, kept promises. The micro-commitments.
Like saying you're going to go to the gym and actually going.
Or saying you'll spend 30 minutes reading and actually doing it. Every single time your actions align with your intentions, you are quietly sending physiological evidence to your nervous system that you are someone who does what they say.
I love this. Identity confidence is basically a credit score with yourself.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Every small promise you keep is an on-time payment. And every time you flake on your own goals, your internal credit score takes a hit.
And the danger is that we think these microfailures don't really matter.
Like hitting snooze.
Right. You set your alarm for 6 a.m., you hit snooze 3 times, and you think, oh, it's just sleep. No big deal.
But your nervous system is quietly logging that transaction.
It is. It's learning that you cannot be trusted to execute your own plans. And over time, that drains your deep confidence faster than almost anything else.
Okay, but I know people with seemingly perfect internal credit scores. They are incredibly reliable, they keep every promise they make to themselves and others, yet they still suffer from massive imposter syndrome.
It happens all the time.
Why do highly capable people still feel so uncertain?
Because of the false stories we tell ourselves about how we are perceived by others. And this is where that statistic from the very beginning comes in. An Ipsos study found that only 32% of adults worldwide report feeling genuinely confident.
So literally 2 out of 3 people are navigating life from a place of uncertainty.
Yeah. And a huge reason for that collective doubt is a psychological phenomenon outlined in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology called the liking gap.
The liking gap. Tell me about that.
The liking gap reveals that we consistently and dramatically underestimate how positively others see us.
Oh, wow.
You walk away from a networking conversation agonizing over some slightly awkward joke you made, convinced the other person thinks you're an idiot.
We've all been there.
Meanwhile, the other person walked away thinking, wow, they were really insightful and easy to talk to.
So our internal feedback loop is just generating phantom judgments.
Exactly.
We are literally losing confidence over criticisms that do not exist outside our own heads.
It's tragic, really. And because our internal feedback is so distorted, we tend to hold on to incredibly inaccurate myths about what confidence actually looks like.
Like the biggest myth that confident people simply don't feel fear, that they just have ice in their veins.
But the research shows high-confidence individuals experience fear, doubt, and physical anxiety at the exact same rates as everyone else.
The difference is just the definition of courage. Fearlessness is the absence of fear, which is biologically impossible for most of us.
Right. Courage is taking action in the presence of fear.
Another pervasive myth is that confidence is this fixed trait that hardens as you get older.
Which is just not true. Thanks to the science of neuroplasticity, we know the brain can form new neural pathways at any age. You can actively train this skill into your 80s and beyond.
Now, looking at the Stanford studies in our pile, specifically Carol Dweck's research, I always assumed confidence came from a winning streak.
A lot of people think that.
Like if you win a lot, you feel confident. Doesn't easy success build self-assurance?
It builds temporary situational confidence, sure, but it actually creates a very fragile identity.
Why is that?
Dweck's work shows that durable, unshakable confidence is built exclusively through struggling and overcoming difficulty.
Oh, I see.
If you only ever experience easy success, your brain never actually learns how to recover from failure. The struggle itself is the raw material of deep confidence.
That makes so much sense. There's one more myth we have to tackle, though.
Let's do it.
The idea that confidence is loud. We tend to associate like volume, taking up physical space, and dominating a conversation with true assurance.
Right, but the psychology distinguishes between performed confidence, which is often fragile, comparative, and attention-seeking, and quiet authority.
Quiet authority, I like that.
Quiet authority doesn't need external validation. It is totally comfortable with silence.
Okay, I love the romantic idea of quiet authority, but let's be real for a second.
Right.
We live in a world that consistently rewards the loudest person in the room. The person who talks over everyone in the corporate meeting usually gets the promotion.
It definitely seems that way.
How does quiet authority actually compete with loud arrogance in a highly competitive workplace?
In the short term, volume absolutely wins attention. There's no denying that. But in the long term, performed confidence shatters under the weight of actual responsibility.
Because arrogance requires the constant demotion of others to feel elevated.
Exactly. Genuine, quiet confidence is non-comparative. It is grounded in actual competence.
So over a long enough timeline, teams figure out who actually delivers and who's just making noise.
Spot on. Quiet authority builds institutional trust. Loud arrogance only builds a temporary audience.
Okay, so if our internal feedback is this distorted and these myths are this deeply ingrained, how do we actually catch ourselves in the moment before the amygdala completely hijacks our behavior?
We need tools.
Yes. I want to open up the social courage toolkit from our sources. Let's start with interrupting the hesitation loop.
The toolkit highlights Mel Robbins' 5-second rule.
I've heard of this.
When you have the impulse to act, to speak up in a meeting, or introduce yourself to a stranger, your brain has a roughly 5-second window before the amygdala engages and starts generating reasons to stay safe.
Okay.
If you count backward 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and physically move, you interrupt that process.
You know, I used to think that was just a cheesy motivational trick, but the underlying mechanism is fascinating.
It really is.
Because counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is just a habit. It requires no cognitive load. But counting backward requires focus.
Exactly. It literally forces the prefrontal cortex to activate. It shifts electrical activity and blood flow away from the emotional panic centers and into the logical executive center.
It's a neurological hack.
It totally is. And to see how this applies over time, look at the case study of James.
The 44-year-old history teacher.
Yes. He was excellent in the classroom, but completely deferred to his colleagues in staff meetings.
He just swallowed his own opinions about the curriculum to keep the peace. He felt entirely invisible.
But he didn't find his voice by suddenly standing on a desk and shouting.
No, he used a technique called a disagreement journal.
Which is brilliant! Every day, he simply wrote down one thing he genuinely thought but didn't say out loud.
He wasn't sharing it with anyone.
No, he was just mechanically locating his own perspective. It was a private practice of self-efficacy.
And self-efficacy is the psychological belief in your ability to execute a task, right?
Right. You build it through direct experience. James started small. He noticed his own thoughts, validated them privately, and then slowly began introducing small disagreements into casual conversations.
So he didn't become combative. He just trained his nervous system to tolerate the friction of holding his own ground.
Exactly. And that plays right into the next tool, graduated exposure.
Treating social courage exactly like physical strength.
Yes. You don't walk into the gym on day one and try to bench press 300 pounds.
You'd crush yourself.
You start with the empty bar. You do one tiny, uncomfortable thing a day to physically stretch the boundaries of your comfort zone.
And as you stretch that zone, the sources say you have to audit your speech patterns.
Because we constantly undermine our own authority with verbal qualifiers, like saying, I could be wrong, but, or I'm just checking in.
Or, this might be a stupid question, but I hear that one all the time.
Dropping those qualifiers isn't just about sounding more authoritative to others. It actually sends a signal back to your own brain.
When you speak declaratively, your nervous system registers that What you have to say possesses inherent value.
Yes. And here is a tool that I think a lot of people struggle with. Learning to properly receive a compliment.
Oh, I am notoriously bad at this.
The research insists we need to stop deflecting. When someone praises your work, just say thank you.
Don't say, oh, it was a team effort, anyone could have done it.
Right, because deflecting compliments reinforces your own internal narrative that you aren't worthy of recognition.
Accepting a compliment forces you to endure the brief discomfort of being seen.
And it allows the positive external feedback to actually land and slowly rewrite your inaccurate internal model.
Okay, but if the ultimate goal is to constantly seek graduated exposure, drop our qualifiers, and aggressively lean into discomfort every single day, how do we do that without completely burning out?
That's a very real concern.
Because constantly fighting your ancient biology just sounds exhausting. Where does self-compassion fit into this relentless grind?
Self-compassion is the ultimate safety net. The University of Melbourne published fascinating research on this.
What did they find?
They found that self-compassion, which means treating yourself with the exact same objective kindness you would offer a struggling friend, is the core engine of resilience.
So it's not about letting yourself off the hook for laziness.
Not at all. It's about recovery time. Their data show that people with high self-compassion return to taking confident action significantly faster after a public failure.
Oh, that makes sense. If you are brutal and punishing with yourself every time you stumble, your brain learns that failure is too painful to risk.
And you will eventually stop trying altogether. Self-compassion lowers the stakes. It tells your nervous system that even if you fail, you won't be subjected to devastating internal abuse.
Wow. So bringing all of this together, what have we really uncovered today?
Well, we've learned that confidence is not a magical trait bestowed at birth.
It is a living, breathing, biological and psychological system.
You do not have to wait for the fear to vanish. In fact, if you wait for the fear to vanish, you will be waiting for the rest of your life.
The courage always comes before the confidence. By taking action in spite of your amygdala's false alarms, by optimizing your physical biology, and by religiously keeping those tiny micro-promises to yourself, you are literally changing the physical architecture of your mind.
The entire system is within your control.
I asked you at the very beginning of this deep dive to think about whatever it is you were putting off.
And I hope you see now that the only way to the other side of that hesitation is straight through the middle of it.
We want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today.
If true confidence is fundamentally just a historical record of the promises you've kept to yourself.
What is one tiny, seemingly insignificant promise you made to yourself today that you were planning to break, but that you can go fulfill right now?
Not to impress anyone else, but just to prove to your own brain that you can finally be trusted.